So, as I said, Matthew is here with the business today, and markets have been enjoying a rare positive spell.
Yes, they have indeed. It's good to see for a change. The main event going on here in Europe yesterday was with the European Central Bank. All eyes were on them to see whether they would change their leading interest rate, 1%. Hope that perhaps they might cut it, bit of stimulus for the economy. Well, they didn't do that, but there was a feeling that perhaps if it's required in the months to come, then the bank will do that.
Okay, that's Europe. US, the central bank governor is going to be speaking today.
Yeah, so it's turn of the US today. Look at what's happening in Washington, because Ben Bernanke, the head of the Federal Reserve there, will be appearing in front of the Congressional Joint Economic Committee. So they'll be looking for signs as well of what he plans to do. We also got some figures yesterday from the US Central Bank about business activity around the country. Those were pretty positive. Moderate growth shown in April and May. So that also cheered markets.
Angela Merkel of Germany, she's been talking about a two-speed Europe just in the last hour or so.
Yes, that's right, Stuart. She's been on TV in Germany giving an interview, and she said some interesting things about her views on Europe. She said that for her, what she wants most importantly is a political union, first and foremost, she said. And she said she'd be willing to work with partners who want that, even if that means a two-speed approach. She talked of the need to cede step-by-step responsibilities to Europe. So she's keeping her consistent line there on the need to sort of take a broad approach to sorting out Europe's issues.
Bit early perhaps, but European markets, they've been reacting to that and everything else.
Yes, well, we had a good run yesterday on markets. European markets have just opened, and we can take a look at them. They're opening up pretty positively, but of course a long day ahead. Markets all up there across the board, and I can also tell you what was happening in Asia overnight. Markets have now closed there, and they also had a good day of trading, apart from the Shanghai Composite, that was down slightly, but the Nikkei up over 1% and the Kospi as well over 2%. Well, despite that optimism we've seen there on the markets, concerns continue over Spain. Just 2 days ago, the country's budget minister said that Spain was having trouble accessing funds on the markets. Well, today that will be tested as the government tries to sell up to €2 billion of bonds.
It's a crucial test of Spain's ability to tap the market as Madrid tries to sell up to €2 billion in debt. The interest rate Spain pays on 10-year bonds is on the rise, from 4.85% in February to over 6.3%. That's dangerously close to the 7% ceiling point, which caused other Eurozone countries such as Greece, Ireland, and Portugal to seek rescue aid. But a bailout package here would be on a totally different scale. The country's economy is the fourth largest in the Eurozone and makes up 12% of its GDP. Just days before the bond sale, Spain's Treasury Minister warned that high interest rates would effectively price the country out of the markets.
What the premium says is that Spain doesn't have the market's door open. That's why it's so important that the European institutions open up and help us, because we're not talking about astronomical figures.
Madrid is trying to avoid a full-blown bailout package and the dictates from Brussels that could accompany it.
I will repeat, there was not a single question about an eventual rescue.
But Madrid is pushing for Eurozone partners to help its feeble banks. The talk in Brussels is that EU policymakers are discussing just that, targeted aid to recapitalize Spanish banks.
Well, yesterday we heard from the European Commission, Stuart, some proposals that are sort of the first steps towards a banking union in Europe. Well, the key question is, could they help Spanish banks? Well, earlier I spoke to our Brussels correspondent, Frédéric Simon. He said that the proposals are unlikely to be implemented in time.
The plans would anyway first need to be approved by the EU countries and the European Parliament, and this is a long process which takes a few years, meaning the rules will probably not take effect until 2015, and the rules forcing banks to pay into a so-called resolution fund would only apply as of 2018 in order to give them the time to raise the extra capital, and this would be far too late for Spain, of course, which could be forced to seek a bailout for its banks in the coming weeks or even days.
Frédéric Simon there in Brussels. Well, now let's get some more of the day's business news. And Rupert Murdoch's News Corp is increasing its hold on its Asian TV operations. The company is buying out the 50% stake owned by Walt Disney in the ESS network. ESS operates 28 channels in 24 different Asian countries.
The official jobless rate here in France was up to 9.6% for the first quarter of the year, the level last seen in 1999. Over 2.7 million people now out of work in France.
And social network LinkedIn has said some of its users' passwords have been stolen and leaked online. The company's looking into reports that around 6 million passwords could have been compromised. It says it's contacting affected members.
Now, the Greek crisis is now affecting the country's healthcare system. Pharmacists who've not been paid by the government are refusing to hand out free medication, and the situation worsening for the 9 million people who depend on that fund.
Shelves of medication inaccessible to many. Greece's troubles are hitting its healthcare system. Customers covered by the state's largest healthcare fund now need to pay the full cost of medication, usually subsidized by an average of 75%. That means many patients simply can't foot the bill.
I was supposed to take my medicine on May the 29th, and it is now June the 5th. It's already 5 days too late. I should be taking it every 3 months on the dot.
The state health fund EOP owes pharmacies about 250 million euros. Many pharmacists say they need that money and can't afford to give away free medication.
People are suffering. We see dramatic problems every day. We, on our side, cannot serve patients because we have not been paid. The result is that there's a serious danger to public health.
The possibility of drug shortages is also growing, as pharmacists usually reimbursed by the state are unable to pay drug suppliers. Greece's health ministry says it's unable to pay pharmacies because a May rescue package was 1 billion euros short. The caretaker government promised earlier this week to provide funds to pharmacists this month, but patients could still face a difficult road ahead. The country's June 17th elections could mean that the international aid tap will be turned off.
And finally in the business, Warren Buffett. He's been sharing his wisdom, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. People are always interested to hear about what Warren Buffett's got to say. Yeah. He's also known as the Sage of Omaha. That's because he's been such a successful businessman. He was at a dinner. We can see him there at a business club in Washington, and he gave a few interesting comments. One of the things he said was that his own experience, to him, is proof that capitalism works.
My lifetime, I was born in 1930. There's 6 times the real GDP per capita as when I was born. 6 times in one person's lifetime. We have a system that works.
Well, you heard him say that he was born in 1930. He's over 80. He was recently diagnosed as well with cancer, although he says it's non-life threatening. But people are always very interested, of course, given his age, how the company is going to go after he's finished. Well, he talked about that as well.
It's built to be forever. It has a special culture. It has directors who are committed to that. It has managers. We have an organization that would reject anybody that tried to tamper with that culture. And I think it is special, and it can stay special. Well, I have left the directors a Ouija board, and I plan to keep in contact with them.
Warren Buffett, there, just to round it off, he said he's going to give 99% of his fortune to charity when he passes away. Matthew, thank you very much. Matthew with the business. More news after the break. Weather forecast coming up. Stay with us if you can.
The 2012 legislative elections live on France 24.